Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cup of Joe with Joe and Joe podcast. I am your host, Joe, and with me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Joe.
Joseph, how are we?
We are pretty good, I'd say. Again,
I would say that as well.
Yes, we talked a little bit off air beforehand. A little bit of work buildup, but I think we're doing all right. But it's good work buildup in my case, as in like I know what to do. Like maybe a little bit earlier in the semester, I was like, I don't quite know what to do, so I need to figure that out and then start doing the work. Now I'm like, okay, we have our heading. So play if I remember at some point. No, I probably won't do this. I want to play like the "He's a Pirate" song, like "We have our heading," and then just launch into the Pirates of the Caribbean theme song. Yeah, I did it. I did it with my mouth. It's fine. But yeah, beautiful. So I thank you. I know what I'm doing now. I literally across from where I record all this stuff because I record on my desk. I don't know where else I would record, but
the bathroom. Great acoustics.
Bathroom probably would have some pretty good acoustics. Like if you sat in the tub and you had like all like the what is the tub made of? It's not. Is it porcelain or is it a plastic of some kind?
Usually porcelain.
Porcelain? Okay. So like all the sounds bouncing off of the porcelain. That's exactly what sound booths are made of. But before I put my microphone on, desk, I had a 14 by 17, like a large ass piece of paper. And I was doing measurements because I'm trying to do a comic page. And so I had to put a bunch of different, like I had to actually measure out into like 16ths and 8ths of stuff because comic books are fucking weird dimensions. But I don't want to get too into that. This is movie talk, not comic talk. Adjust microphone. Okay, there we go. So, Cup of Joe 20. Everybody, we made it. We've doubled the amount of weeks from the original one, even though technically we skipped a couple of weeks back in the original 10, but who cares because we've made up for it by tripling the episode count.
We did skip. I don't think we skipped any weeks. Maybe one because of a break. No, because even for Thanksgiving break we did it before we left. You got to remember though is that we started late because the radio club took about 4 weeks to respond to an email and set up scheduling.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because that didn't get started until beginning of October, right? Because I'm pretty sure episode 3 or 4 was the Halloween. Yeah. Okay. God, thinking back to that is just really fucking weird.
What a different life.
It really was, wasn't it? Let's go back. Let's just turn the clock back, you know? Like, if we all...
Joe, I tried to turn the clock back, but I'm stuck on the damn bubble soccer message.
Oh, right. Yes, of course.
I even tried today. I like, iPhone lets you, like, in all your messages, you can search keywords, and it will take you to that message, or that part of the message thread that had that keyword. And so I was like, okay, what is one of the earliest things Joe and I talked about? And I'm like, okay, we talked about like Studio Ghibli, and I told you about Over the Garden Wall. And I know this because when I go back into our photos, like iPhone has a thing where you can just look at like the photos in a chat. One of the first photos I sent you was like a Over the Garden Wall photo, and I like searched it up, and I went to click it, and I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna take me to like the first thread. It's too far back. The phone just like stutters and then explodes.
The plastic brick just kind of shits itself. Yeah, and we're just talking about one of the first movies that we ever watched because Joe was thinking to himself the other day. He was like, oh yeah, I wonder what that would be, and we still haven't really figured it out. We can't really. Our brains don't work too good.
As of right now, it's Coraline. But even then, I'm not satisfied.
We're convinced there's something before that. Like, there has to be.
Definitely something before that.
Yeah. Just took a little swig of water in case
It
anyone heard
sounded
that.
nice.
All right, thank you. I like the can opening in the beginning as well. It sounds super clean just doing the crack. Okay, topic of today's episode.
We can't avoid it for like 20 more minutes and then just like not talk about it.
Yeah, I think anyone can kind of tell that we're kind of prolonging getting into this. So the movie that we watched for this week is a movie called Million Dollar Baby, and so if I remember correctly, neither one of us knew what this movie was going into it.
I had
Only
no clue
Joe's
besides
father.
the title. Yes,
Yeah,
I just knew
only
the
your
title.
father was the one that recommended it to us.
Yeah, and he didn't recommend it. He said, "Don't watch
was-
it. It broke me."
It was the anti-recommend. Yeah, so going into it, I think it was a little bit better for when we get into some of the stuff that I'm assuming was the part that broke him. Um, where to begin with?
Joe, I have
with this?
one note for this.
Just
whole movie.
one?
Just one, and it just says that this movie physically hurt me.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
That's...
Joe, I watched Attack on Titan after this, and then I watched The Flyers lose. Needless to say, I was not doing too good.
You must have been in such a fragile mental space at that point.
There was some emo music. American football was on. I was in a hoodie. I was curled up on the couch. It was a place, to say the least.
If I came in and just switched two of your pop figures placements, would you have actually gone into like a cataclysmal breakdown?
Nope. I could care less.
Oh, okay. Glad we're past that now. All right, let's start off on a bit of a lighter note before we get into the breaking.
No, hold up. So, I go to watch this, right, Joe? I go and I'm like, okay, it's time to find. Like, I have no clue what this movie's about. I look it up and I'm like, cool, HBO Max. I'm like, wait a minute, this is a boxing movie? What the fuck?
Yeah, I was like, what? Oh, it's another Rocky movie. I was like, we're gonna be known for superheroes and boxing. That's gonna be our audience demographic.
I was shook. I'm like, I had no clue this was a boxing movie. I thought it was about to be like some, I don't know, $1 Million Baby. It sounds like maybe like some dude starting up a business or something. That's what I had imagined in my head. Like, oh, like the business was a baby and it made him $1 million. But I don't know, some pursuit of happiness shit. And then I'm like, oh, cool, it's a boxing movie. But then, and like for the first hour, I really enjoyed it. But then you kind of start, you feel that, you get that tension you get when you watch like a horror movie. And especially because like I had went in with the comment of my dad saying that it broke him. In the back of my head, like after an hour, I'm like, oh God, when is the thing gonna happen? I'm like, what is the thing? When is the thing? How bad is the thing? Oh boy, Joe, you go. I can't.
Yeah. So it's a 2 hour, little over 2 hours long. The first 90 minutes, it's actually, when I think about it, it's sort of similar to Rocky in multiple ways like that, because obviously it is a boxing movie and then it is a 2 hour long thing, and it's basically one movie for the first 90 minutes and then the last half hour is a completely, in my mind, different movie.
Except
so this
Clint Eastwood is in this movie.
Except Clint Eastwood is in this movie, yes, as well as that's my first note is holy MCU actors, Batman, because there are 1, 2, 3 MCU actors in this. And then Hiccup is the voice actor for Hiccup is in this as well. But they were just people that I recognize. So you have Luke Cage, something Colt, I think is his name, or Colt something, I can't remember. But the guy who plays Luke Cage is the prized boxer in the movie that leaves Frankie. Then you have Falcon, Anthony Mackie, who's the kind of like the asshole character. And then you have, I'm going to forget his actual name, but the Hispanic guy who plays one of Ant-Man's friends.
Oh, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, he has like 3 lines in the movie.
Yeah, in this movie he's got 3 lines. He's just kind of like the yes man to Anthony Mackie's character, who in total I think the both of them have maybe 10 lines. They're not very big parts, but they are in there. And I found that really funny that in this movie from 2004, where three actors that would later get bigger, well, at least two actors that would later get much bigger roles, and then Ant-Man guy, he's fun. He's one of the most memorable parts of Ant-Man. I love when he does his little recounting things and they dub his voice over all the actors. It's very funny. He's also in John Wick, and I like his character in that too.
What?
Anyway, yeah,
Is he?
he's a car mechanic in John Wick when the Russian assholes come back after
Okay.
messing up John
Okay.
Wick, because they steal a car and they bring it to him because he's like the auto guy for all the mob people, and he just looks at them and he's like, "Do you know whose fucking car this is?" And they're like, "What?" And then he like smacks. He's like, "Get the fuck out of my shop! I'm not helping you guys. You're all gonna be dead." So he's in a couple of things, but I like him a lot. I just don't remember his name. But yeah, so a lot of really strong people in here. Again, Clint Eastwood plays Frankie. You have Morgan Freeman who plays Eddie. Hilary Swank plays Maggie, who is the main character. Yeah, that's the Trinity sort of a thing that we have. Basically, we got Frankie, Eddie, and Maggie.
Rule of
which
three.
again, rule of three, just
Danny
like Danny
Phantom.
Phantom. Exact. You got the white guy, you got the black guy, and you got the girl. We got it all. That's it. There's the only.
Yeah. Well,
That's
I mean, that follows. That's literally what Danny Phantom was. That's pretty funny. Yeah. You got that right.
I need a soundboard where you can just click the. He's a phantom.
We can't edit
I'm
that
really.
well, Joe.
What?
We can't edit that well, Joe. Are you crazy? Like, I mean,
Yeah, no, we
maybe
can't.
maybe you need a soundboard and then connect it to a speaker in your room, and then the mic will just pick up the noise coming out of the speaker.
I was gonna just say I could just be really fast and like have it on my just Google things on my phone and then play, but I'd have to
Oh
worry
my
about
God.
AdSense. So, whatever. So I'm really procrastinating getting.
Oh
through
no,
the
trust
rest
me,
of this
trust me.
movie.
I feel you, brother.
Okay, so I'm just gonna try and go through my notes because chronological order, and let's just try and see where this goes. So my next note that I have is that Maggie goes from 0 to KO Queen in like 30 seconds.
Big time.
Again, the crux of this movie, or like the story of this movie, is whatchamacallit, Frankie and Eddie both kind of run this gym, and so they're looking for boxers that are going to be, contenders, like for the championship and stuff like that, or just anyone good that they think they can will have a shot at like winning some matches. And then Maggie's character, Hilary Swank's character Maggie, comes in and is trying to get trained by Frankie. And he wants none of it. He's like, "I don't train girls." And so he just leaves her, but she comes to the gym anyway, and she's kind of learning she's trying to box against a bag, but obviously she's very bad because she has no idea what she's doing. And she's older. What is she, like 34 in the movie?
31.
Something like that. 31. Okay. But what they say is like past the time that you should be learning how to box, is by the time you're good enough, you're going to be already way out of your prime. And basically over the course of the film, she kind of wears down first Eddie, Morgan Freeman's character, and he gives her a couple of pointers, so she starts to get better. And then finally Frankie, sort of out of pity and annoyance, starts training her finally. And as he's training her, again, she goes from like 0 skill to she just knocks out motherfuckers left and right, literally in the first round of like all of her matches up until she gets up to the final match. But we'll save that for later. But yeah, and at first I was sort of like, this is weird because most of the story is like the journey of how to get there. But obviously I still had it in the back of my head that this movie mentally destroyed your father, and I was like, okay, so clearly it's not just going to be she gets to the top and then haha, end of movie. So I was kind of waiting to see what was going to happen. Third note, boxing scenes are way more convincing than Rocky. I was just writing shit down, but
I
also
agree.
they were. Yeah. Again, I've only seen the first Rocky, but again, not not very convincing. And there was no weird ADR in this movie that I could see, so that was also a nice plus. Um, I also looked up what Makushla meant because I was curious and I didn't realize they would actually tell you in the movie, but it does mean just darling in Gaelic, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. Um, oh, also, we have another. We need to have like a tier list of what I want to call it the "fuck this mom" tier list, but not in a good
Yeah.
way.
Oh, yeah,
Where
wow,
no,
that didn't even cross my mind um until you said that. It just automatically went to the negative connotation of it.
yeah, well, I'm because you're probably thinking of the mother in this film, who is a big old bitch. So we got what was the first one? First one was from Only Yesterday. So the mom from that, and then we have this mother. As of right now, the mother in this movie is triple S tier in fuck this mom tier list. Where
Oh,
if
yeah.
yeah, if I'd probably put Only Yesterday at like a B or an A. For and this is like in terms of like hatred. This is like the higher you are, the more hated you are. I'd probably put Only Yesterday's mom at like a B because she's not really malicious. I think she just is kind of like doesn't quite know how to deal. Whatever. It's not important. This mother in this movie, triple S, fuck this mom tier. This is horrible. I hate this woman so much.
Yeah, she is absolutely evil. And to put it in perspective, everybody, Maggie buys her a house because she is living in a trailer with her other daughter and her grandson, who's a baby. And Maggie is so excited to show her mom that she bought her a house instead of buying herself a new house, which is what Frankie wanted her to do. And then her mom proceeds to get pissed at her that she bought her a house. And he's like, "Are you serious? Like, they're gonna cut out my welfare. I'm gonna have to start working. I can't pay for these expenses. It's like you should have just gave me the money." And she was telling her how she's like dumb and she doesn't think things through. And I was like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, I want to punch the TV screen. And
I want to
and
put a hole through my monitor.
and Clint Eastwood, you see him in the background, just kind of chilling, observing it all. But I saw one thing I kind of noticed. I mean, maybe it wasn't intentional, but like you definitely see his hands are in like fist down at his sides. Because I mean, Clint Eastwood's a bad motherfucker. That dude is. Whew, you
He's an OG.
there's a heavy song I listen to, like a hardcore song, before games, and it has a sample of a line he said in I forget what movie it is, but it goes along the lines of, "You ever notice how every once in a while you come across somebody you shouldn't have fucked with?" And then he spits, and then he goes, "That's me." And then the heavy song comes in, and then at that point I can do anything. I'm literally Superman. But Clint Eastwood is a bad motherfucker, and in this movie he's tough too. I mean, he's definitely soft a little bit in this movie, and he's compassionate, but at the same time, you don't fuck around with him. And like, I felt like I felt the same way Clint did, where it's like he's like, "Oh man, I can't say anything right now, but damn it, if I could."
Yeah, you can tell because he, over the course of the movie, the main relationship is between Frankie and Maggie, and how they're kind of like forming almost like a father-daughter kind of bond because uh, Maggie's father is dead, and Frankie's daughter. Wait, what did I say? Maggie's father is dead. Yes,
Yep,
Frankie's daughter is estranged, where it doesn't seem like she
they're
wants
not
anything
on
to do with
talking
him.
terms. Yeah,
Yeah, um, and that's also visualized in the fact that he sends letters out to her, and they always return to him marked like return address to sender. So it's like she is not accepting any sort of communication with him. And you can tell he's hurt by this, but like the relationship that he's forming with Maggie is kind of like filling that void a little bit. And so when this happens, he's just like, I'm gonna lay this bitch out. But obviously he doesn't, because he understands it's not really his place. So they just leave, and he just tries to make her feel better through other means. Um, yeah, so that's kind of like the emotional setting of where this movie goes after the rise of Maggie becoming a one punch girl, and then is it
So, so she finally gets a chance at a title fight. I believe it's for he moved her up in class, so she's welterweight, which is around the middleweight.
mm-hmm.
Nowadays, there's actually a couple more different weight ranges. So it was the welterweight championship for women's boxing, which is huge, and she's going against this German girl that you get introduced to in like earlier in the movie, when Maggie starts doing really well, because apparently the German girl had wanted to fight Maggie earlier, but Frankie was like, hell no, you're known as being the dirtiest boxer in the world, like I'm not gonna fight you. And is she called like Blue Crush or something like that?
Yeah, her name is Billy, and it's like Blue is a part of the full title in this
Blue
somewhere,
Bear?
but
No, what the hell was it?
I don't know. It's Billy something, or like I don't know. I don't care. All I know is that I have words for this girl. I have so many words for what happens in this fight.
Yeah, and she's a really dirty fighter, whether that's, going for hits after the bell, the holds, trying to break somebody's nose, like all like just it not punching wise, but pushing it up, which can actually kill somebody because I learned this in anatomy. There's a little bone where like if you break the nose that way, the bone will actually go into the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, crazy stuff. So
Brain kebab.
she's a really dirty and not honorable fighter. But if Maggie wants to be champion, she has to fight her. So they get the big title match, and they get out there. And this is the point where I'm like, okay, it's gonna happen. Whatever it is gonna happen. The music, the way it's all set up, like, it, I, my heart was actually racing. I was holding myself, like I was actually grabbing myself. And it's a good fight. You're watching it, and the girl is being pretty dirty, but Maggie is being damn tough. And I don't know, Joe. Do you? I feel like we're playing ping pong here, trying to say who says what.
Yeah, I'll go next. I'll go now because I do have things I want to say real quick before we get into what happens
Yeah.
very soon. Like, fuck Billy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I actually, Joe, I looked up boxing rules because of this fight. Because
Wow.
I was like, how the fuck has she not been disqualified yet?
Yeah,
I counted
that's what I was
three
confused.
illegal moves in one round. And then, because I believe it's at the end of round one when what is it? I think Maggie's on the ground, and then after the bell rings, or no, I don't even know if it's after the bell. No, because after the bell rings is the final thing. It was in the fight when Maggie's on the ground, and then Billy is just looking at her, and as the ref is doing the counting, she just decks her while she's still on four on the ground. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you must be disqualified for that. And I looked it up and I couldn't find anything definitive. The closest thing I could find is a list of illegal hits. And then it's like, none of these mean instant disqualification. It's just up to the ref. And I'm like, this is the third illegal move she has just done, which is topping, like, okay, one illegal move, okay. Two illegal moves, I'd say call it there. The third illegal move, where someone is on the ground and then you punch them in the face after witnessing that they are on the ground for at least, I think it was like 4 or 5 seconds they were into the
Mm-hmm.
count, and then she hits her in the face. I'm like, this woman should not be allowed to fight. And then
Yeah.
they just continue the fight. I was
Yeah,
like,
I
this is
was mad
absurd.
at the ref. He's like, take a point off. And I'm like, oh, big whoop, take a point off.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's dirty shit. I'm like, I don't care if it's the championship. And he's probably thinking, oh, well, it's a championship. I can't just call it because of disqualification. Like, it's got to be a
Yes, you
fight.
can.
And it's like,
Yes, you
no,
can.
like it's not like maybe, like, oh, I don't know, like a something where it's maybe a illegal hit where you're like, oh, maybe you kind of push him after the bell or something like that. Like, no, she like full on was doing dirty, dangerous stuff that like is extremely not just illegal, but like people aren't going to try and get away with it. Like, it's frowned upon. And yeah, I felt the same way. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, why is this chick allowed to fight?
Yeah, the entire time I was just like, there's no way in a non. Again, I don't watch too many sports in general, including boxing. So I really don't know what it's like, but I can't imagine that any person like that would be ever allowed to box, like again, or at least can finish that fight. It was just a little absurd. Um, and then comes, I believe there's only 2 rounds because at the end of round 2,
Hmm.
Maggie's doing better. Like she actually kind of goes up against Billy and is really laying her out. And Billy can tell, and Billy is scared and angry. And so the second bell rings to end round 2, and as Maggie turns around and they're setting out the stool for her to come over and sit down in her corner, Billy just walks, not even walks up, just kind of reaches out and just completely decks Maggie in the face, throwing Maggie off balance, falling towards the stool, which is on its side, on which she lands on her neck on the rim of the stool, paralyzing her.
Oh, Joe, I gotta tell you, whoever did sound effects for this got paid way too much. Um, and
Or
I
they like their
noticed it.
job a little too much.
Yeah, yeah, I noticed it when her nose was broken in an earlier fight, and you hear Frankie fix it, and you hear the snap, and I was like, ooh.
Didn't like any of that.
Yeah, and then and then you hear the snap of when her neck falls on that stool, and I'm like, oh my god, I didn't think it was gonna be that. I'm like, that's actually worse than what I had planned in my head. I was like, oh, maybe she'll lose an eye, like Morgan Freeman's character did, or something. Uh-uh, uh-uh. Oh my god,
No.
that was horrifying, and the fact that the room just goes dead quiet after that, and the way that Maggie's body looks and her face, and the way that Frankie looks. Oh, how he tried to grab the stool. Oh my god, and he
It
he
was
just
all in slow motion, and you could see the inevitable coming, and it was horrible.
her C1, her C2, her cervical vertebrae. I just had a test on this stuff, guys. Trust me. Um, just oh my god, broken. And I think it wasn't just the fact that she was off balance. I think she was also just knocked out.
No, yeah, I
So
think because
she it
she was
wasn't like she could
completely off
catch.
guard.
Yeah, yeah, and she couldn't catch herself. So you're like, if your fall, say you fell and you land on your neck like that, but you fell and you're conscious. You can brace your muscles to help a little bit. You can help kind of rotate, like, so it wouldn't be as bad. But she went down with absolutely no muscle contraction, just full on, full force. Um, yeah, that was horrifying.
Yeah, that it was. And so this is the 90-minute point. If you couldn't tell, where it becomes a completely different movie because no longer is this watching a rising boxing star. Now you're watching the struggling life of an ex-boxing star, now paraplegic, who is losing the will to live.
Yeah, yeah, that was very nicely worded. And and at this point, I'm like, okay, that's pretty bad. I'm like, it's probably gonna. And then I looked at this is when I looked at the time. I'm like, oh shit, there's like a good half an hour left. I'm like, oh
There's
my
so
god.
much more.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay, it's not just that she's in a wheelchair. I'm like, what the hell happens now? And she has surgeries, and it's what's Morgan Freeman's character's name? I keep
Eddie.
forgetting. Eddie. Okay. Eddie and Frankie are at the hospital, trying to help Maggie in any way possible, trying to figure things out. And Maggie knows. The nurses told her she's going to be paralyzed for the rest of her life.
Hmm.
Not going to be like from neck down, not going to be able to do anything. Actually, from the head down, she can't even control her neck because it's C1.
And she has a
Breathing tube.
automatic respirator. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because yeah, those neck muscles aren't gonna. Oh, and the lungs. Oh my God, so sad. And she doesn't want to tell Frankie, but Frankie obviously finds out, and he he's in denial. And the other thing we didn't mention is that Morgan Freeman narrates this movie too. It's not a super long narration. I think this movie does super well with the narration. I think it adds a lot to it.
Hmm.
And so, Morgan Freeman's narrating at this party. He goes, and I would be honest to say that I think Frankie called every hospital in America at that point, because he was trying so hard. He was convinced that, like, okay, she'll be fixed. Something will happen. Like, even if she's not able to box, she'll be able to come back and live somewhat of a normal life. But I think it quickly hits Frankie that that's not what's going to happen.
Yeah. Every place that he called, they were either like, "No, we can't help her," or they were like, "Well, let me take a look." And then they saw what happened, and they're like, "Yeah, no, I'm sorry, guy, we can't do anything about this." And so then you go from uh, whatchamacallit, you go from again the rising star sort of a thing to now how she's dealing with um, everything going on in her life right now. And so like some of the family members come back into play, which further solidify fuck
Oh
this
yeah.
mom triple S tier
Oh
when
yeah.
she comes back. I I wanted to. Oh my god! So like I'm
Yeah.
so
Get it out.
infuriated
Get
by
it
this
out, Joe.
scenario that I need
Joe,
to.
this is our artistic outlet. Get it out.
I need to compose a little bit so I don't just like bark into the microphone and like in
Yes.
anger. I need
Yes.
to actually articulate. The you in the narration by Morgan Freeman, you find out the family had been there for like had come down to like where Maggie was staying in like the hospice or hospital or whatever it was for about 6 days before they came to see her. And I was thinking, so I'm like, why? Like, what were they doing for 6 days? And I had no idea. And when they walk in, they're all wearing Universal T-shirts and hats and paraphernalia, and I'm just like, oh my fucking god, I can't believe this. I cannot believe these characters. Um, and thank God that these are characters because I mean, if this were based on a true story and like this stuff actually happened, I would have lost my shit. Uh, um, compose. So they walk in, and there is a stereotypical douche Southern boy who's also, I think is he a brother? Or is he like one of the
He's the brother that
daughters?
just got out of jail, man.
Right. Okay. So he's there, and it's the three of them and a lawyer. Uh, who's also a massive douche, and they're all standing around her bed, wearing the Universal stuff. Which Frankie was like, maybe you take that stuff off, and they're like, nah, we're gonna go and talk to my daughter. And Frankie's like, all right, fuckers. So they go and they talk to her, and they try and get her to sign some sort of legal contract to give away all of her assets to the family upon her death. And the scene of the mother asking, "So how do you make your mark?" And then the daughter going, "Well, you got to put the pen in her mouth, mama." And I'm just like, I I can't comprehend that level of just inhuman stupidity.
Yeah, that was really that was super super hard to watch. Um, and I love that Maggie actually finally snaps on him. It made my day. Because Maggie is just Maggie's a great character. I love her as a character. She's awesome. She has a great heart, and even after that whole thing earlier in the movie with the mom getting mad that she bought her a house, like Maggie was still trying to be positive about it and trying to be nice to her. And even in this moment, she's trying to be nice to her. But the thing that sets Maggie off is when Maggie says like, "Oh, did you see the fight? I did well." And then the mom says, "You lost, Maggie. Nothing to it. You lost." And Maggie is at point. She's like, "All right, you're done. You are out." And she finally snaps. She calls her like a hillbilly looking ass or something like that. Basically,
Take your
just
fat hillbilly ass down to something or other. I can't remember. I was
it
just
was good. It
like
was
you.
really good, and
Yeah,
it
it
was
was
so
really good.
cathartic. And they just leave like it was nothing. Um, and I was like, "Oh my god, thank you, Maggie. That helped so much."
And then Frankie kind of comes back in, and it's a brief moment of yes, because then after that, Maggie continues to deteriorate. Like her will to live is basically non-existent at this point. Like her family, as she's come to realize, are complete assholes and don't care about her whatsoever. The only thing she wanted to do, as established earlier in the film when she had a mini outburst to Frankie before he agreed to train her, where she was like, if I can't do this, then I can't do anything because like this is what I want to do, 'cause this is what I love. So the fact that she can't move at all, much less box, has just destroyed any drive in her, and so she's become at this point suicidal, which
Yeah.
is it's real. Like the entire last half hour of the movie is very hard to watch.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of basically Maggie asks Frankie to pull the plug, and Frankie just can't do it, and it's really tough. And just looking at Maggie, it's so hard to look at Maggie at this point. She has to get her leg amputated.
Hmm.
Forgot that part. God.
There's so much that happens in this last half hour that's just like dicking her over. You can't. It's so hard to remember all of it.
Oh my God, it's just blow after blow, and it's like Frankie is a mess. He's talking to the priest, asking him what to do. He's talking to Eddie. I got the name right, right? Morgan Freeman's character.
Yes,
Okay,
you got it.
I literally forgot it, and I just threw a name out there. Whew. And he doesn't know what to do. But Maggie's not wasting any time. She really just wants to, kind of get out of there. So in the middle of the night, she bit her tongue off and tried to basically kill herself by choking on blood. And oh my god, I couldn't watch that scene. I literally had to turn away. It was like you just see blood, but it bothered me so much. It really
Hmm.
bothered me.
Yeah. And then, so again, Frankie has been struggling because he doesn't know what to do in the situation, whether to like try and keep her alive, even though he knows there's nothing that will ever change her condition, um, or you know, kill her, which he doesn't quite think is the right answer either. Like again, that's what the priest says to him. He's like, if you do this, it won't make anything better, and it'll basically be one of the greatest sins you ever commit. Like your self torment will just increase exponentially. Um, and ultimately, he comes to the decision where he's going to grant her request, as I will put it, and he goes in and disconnects her breathing tube and then gives her a shot of adrenaline large enough to put her, as he puts it, this will put you to sleep and this will keep you asleep. And the relief in her eyes as he does it was oddly heartwarming, even though obviously it was a very not heartwarming event, as was the entirety of this last act. And then after he does that, Frankie just kind of walks out, and then Morgan Freeman just narrates the rest, of which is Frankie pretty much left that hospital wing, and nobody ever saw him again.
He went back to what was it, wherever Maggie was from, and the last thing we see is that he's in the little diner eating some lemon pie,
Hmm.
and The another thing I don't know why it made me think about this, but I really like it. Is the fact that another little thing that happens in the movie is not a main thing, but there's this other character named Danger, and he's this side character where he's like this really skinny kid that definitely is a little slow, and he's like basically homeless, and he just kind of lives at the pretty much they're at the boxing gym, and he gets jumped. Like they distract Morgan Freeman's character, and like he gets in a fight with some of the other dudes, and I love Morgan Freeman pretty much whoops the one dude's ass, and
Yeah.
once he whoops his ass, under his breath he just goes 110. Because he was talking to Maggie about how every boxer has a certain number of fights and you never really know what it was, and how his was 109. So just I love that
But
part.
he
That
really he wanted that 110 was the point of the story that he was telling. He was like, I wanted to go for it, but the 109th is the one where he lost the use of his eye, and that's kind of what forced him into retirement. But then this, he was like, yeah, fuck you. And he punches him in
yeah,
the face with a bare fist, knocks out the guy's tooth, and then he just goes 110.
yeah,
I'm
that
sorry, can
that
you hear any of that real quick?
oh yeah, I can hear it, man. It sounds like you're
Okay,
working
I'm
in a beautiful Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, it sounds like my mother doesn't know I'm recording. Sorry about that. It's probably towards the end of it right now, but
It adds character, Joe. Come on, man.
it'll just be better for when, later on down the road when we get the podcast sound booth when we make millions, and
Ah,
it will be like,
yes.
aha, remember back when we had to worry about our parents putting the dishes away? Ah, yes, ha ha ha, such troubling times of us peasants back then.
Um, well, while Joe does that or whatever, or we're at the end, yeah, so Frankie ends up granting Maggie's request. He disappears. Um, and the movie ends at that. He ends with Morgan Freeman saying that Frankie left and nobody ever saw him again. Um, and I cried so much during this movie. It like like the first part, the first I think I cried. Maybe I teared up a little, like when during like some of the beginning stuff, and you're kind of getting some of the background info. Um, but there I forget what scene it was in the hospital. Oh, I think it is when Maggie asked to like pull the plug that like I lost it. I couldn't stop crying. I was a mess. Um, and yeah, this I mean even talking about the movie now makes me sad. I called my dad right after we watched it, and we were talking about it, and he said the same thing. He was, damn, because even just thinking about it now makes me sad.
Yeah, it. I don't know if I'll ever watch this movie again, because it is really it's such a downer. I think it's a good story, but it's not one. This isn't something that's
This
just gonna
is
be
not
like,
a first date movie, everybody.
no,
Not even a second date movie. It's
this is
not a
not a
date
hundredth
movie.
date movie. No, this is not a date movie in the slightest. So yeah, with that, you wanna give ratings?
Um, Heartbreak out of 10.
Oh, solid heartbreak. All right. I'm trying to think about what I would give
Something
this.
witty.
Something witty came to mind, but I thought it would be tasteless and insensitive, so I'm not gonna. So I'm
Oh
not gonna
God.
say it. Um, you can imagine what would have come to mind
Yes.
for like depicting a hard story. I'd say like a 7 out of 10 for something that I would enjoy, or like, I because like you can't enjoy this is the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like my personal rating, I'd probably give this like a 5 out of 10 because I recognize it is a very good movie. I'm pretty sure
Cinematography
it
is
won.
really good too. Cinematography is
Yeah, yeah.
really, really good.
There's one scene where Frankie is right before he makes the big decision when he's talking to Eddie, Morgan Freeman's character, he's like covered in shadow except for a certain part of his face, and the same thing in the car when he drives there. That it was really really good. But yeah, I give this thing like a 5 out of 10 just because like I recognize it's good. I never want to see this ever again in my lifetime.
Yeah, this falls into perfect blue category, definitely.
Something like that. Yeah. All right. So with
Okay,
all that
let's
out of
Joe
the way,
nonstop positivity now. Like I Joe, basically what we've learned from this is I can't pick movies.
we're banning Joe from ever picking movies again. Is what we've learned from this movie. Um, no, you'll get your chance in approximately 2 weeks' time because next week's movie is going to be part one of a two-part thing, which we can now
Woo,
talk
woo,
about.
woo,
Woohoo!
woo.
So, yeah, next week's movie we have decided will be Justice League, the original theatrical release one, because then the week after next week is when the Snyder Cut 4 hour long HBO original epic. I wanted to add in more of that, but I don't know. We'll just leave it at that. That's when that's coming out. So we're gonna review, recap, talk about the original cut on next week. So episode 21, and then episode 22 will be that insanity of whatever the fuck the Snyder Cut's gonna be.
And hopefully uh we are going to be watching this together in person. Two Joes in the same room watching a movie. Oh man, it's
Just
been a
two
while.
Joes sitting in the same room.
Joe, when was the last time Joe, Joe. Wait. Oh, damn. I really thought the last time we watched a movie was in New Zealand, but that's not true. We watched Ponyo
Nah,
together.
yeah, I was gonna say we watched Ponyo with Polyboy. Um, yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. And that's all I have for this one. It is good movie. Never want to see it again.
Yeah, don't. Oh boy. Watch this if you need like, I don't know, if you need to change a pace or something. You need something to kind of kick you into gear or like give you a perspective on life. This movie will offers no soft landing to say the least.
Yep. All right. Anything else to add, Joe?
I love you all. I'm only picking Ghibli movies from here on out.
This is the fallout of all this. All right. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that wonderful shiznit. Sorry for such a fucking downer. We'll see you next week with a fucking garbage pile. Bye bye.